Okay. Sorry that we went second. I won't make a comment. All right. Anyway, I'm so pleased to be joined by Senators Klobuchar, Merkley, and Warnock today. They are our leaders in the Senate on voting rights. Hey, folks. Now, we have to get a lot done, and my caucus is ready to move ahead on two important issues: voting rights and infrastructure. And on infrastructure, discussions about infrastructure are moving along forward nicely on two tracks. One is bipartisan, and the second deals with components of the American Jobs and Families Plan, which we'll consider even if it lacks bipartisan support. Can't do one track without the other. They're going to move together concurrently. We hope to have votes on both of them in July, and that is the budget agreement and the bipartisan bill. Now, at 5:30 today, the Senate will move to vote on a motion to proceed to very important voting rights legislation. I'm pleased to report that Senator Manchin and I have come to an agreement. He came to my office, about 2 hours ago, and we worked it out. Senator Manchin has informed me that he will vote yes on the motion to proceed to debate the legislation. I have committed to him that if our Republican colleagues don't obstruct and allow us to move forward on the debate, we'll take up his proposed substitute amendment as the first amendment we will consider. Now, let's be clear. Today's vote is very simple. Today's vote is on whether we start debate on legislation to protect America's voting rights. All 50 Democrats will vote yes. Every one of us wants to start debate. Unfortunately, it's not the same on the other side. We wish it were. In the wake of the 2020 elections, where Donald Trump told a lie, a big lie, that the election was stolen from him by fraud, by voter fraud, and in response to Donald Trump's lies, Republican state legislatures immediately launched the most sweeping voter suppression efforts in at least 80 years. More than 250 bills in 43 states were introduced just between the months of January and February that would restrict the right to vote. Today, there are nearly 400 bills. And in states like Georgia, Florida, Iowa, and Montana, these bills have become law. Whatever you think of potential solutions, shouldn't we all agree that this is a problem and the Senate should debate it? This is something that Americans have died for on the field of battle. Americans have been bloodied marching for. In 1789, when we became a republic, in most states, you had to be a white, male, Protestant property owner to vote. Raise your hand if you're in that category. Come on, raise your hands. One. Okay. But we have had an inexorable march to expand voting rights and allow people to vote and encourage people to vote until now because of Trump's big lie. I challenge my Republican colleagues to come to the floor and defend these policies. Let us have a debate, a real debate. The Republicans should not be afraid to debate this vital issue. Senator Klobuchar.
Thank you very much, Senator Schumer, for your leadership and your incredible perseverance to get this done. As you said, failure is not an option in the past, and it is not an option, not for the American people. I want to thank Senator Merkley, the chief author of this bill in the Senate, and I also want to thank Senator Warnock, who in his maiden speech summed up whatever we're going to say here for the next few minutes better than anyone else could when he said this is all about one thing: some people don't want some people to vote. That is what this is about and what you are about to see this afternoon. Our party is united behind getting voting rights legislation passed, and they are wanting to stop the debate. Just like they tried their hardest to stop people from voting in Texas. county of Harris County, over 5 million people, about the population of my state. One ballot drop box in the middle of that county. That was all that they thought they deserved. Or as they tried to take people water away with what they did in Georgia. Or as they discriminated years back in North Carolina so that a circuit court, which included conservatives, said they were doing it with surgical precision. So this is not some kind of game. And as Senator Schumer so well said, it's never been easy. It wasn't easy for our founding fathers when they founded this nation. It wasn't easy for civil rights activists down there who end up dead, those little girls in the church, John Lewis standing on that bridge. It has never been easy, and we never thought that this would be easy. But what we have before us today is, first of all, a bill that we worked hard on in the Rules Committee, made many, many changes in response to local election officials, accommodated concerns about rural areas and making things, giving them time to comply with some of this. It's simply federal minimum standards. And I cannot stress enough, based on what you maybe heard from the Republican leaders, this is constitutional. The Constitution says specifically, and it's been upheld over and over, that you can have federal standards, that the Congress can make and alter the laws regarding federal elections. And that is what we have been called upon to do based on the 22 laws that have already passed since the election to limit people's freedom to vote, based on the over 400 bills that have been introduced across this country to limit people to vote. Most political parties, after a national election, when they lose so badly, what do? They step back and look at themselves. Democrats have done this, Republicans have done that. How can we change our candidates? How can we change our positions? How can we change our messages? What these guys are doing right now is they're saying, how can we change our voters? How can we make it harder for people to vote that voted and were willing to risk their lives in the middle of a pandemic to vote? So that's why I am so proud of the work that we've done, that Senator Manchin has come forward in good faith, has put forth a proposal. We've been negotiating through the weekend. You'll see, I know, the proposals that he's put out, but they include things you've already heard about and additional things like same-day registration, something that we've been working on for years, that Senator Tester and I put a bill out on. Things like allowing people to be automatically registered, which he put forward a week ago, when they apply for a driver's license. Those are big deal things. And so I'm excited of what we're going to accomplish together. We know that this is not an easy road, but this is not the end. This is the beginning.
Senator Merkel.
Well, today the bell's going to ring on round one of the fight to defend our Constitution. We're talking about the fundamental opportunity for every citizen to participate in fair and free elections. There are so many fundamental principles at stake. The right of every American to have access to the ballot, the freedom to have access to the ballot, to have elections in which billionaires cannot buy those elections, corporations cannot buy those elections through dark money, to end gerrymandering so that we honor the vision of equal representation near and dear the heart of our Constitution. And finally, that we take on conflicts of interest so that our elected leaders serve the public, not themselves. These are principles that virtually every American supports, of every party. We have 3/4 of Democrats, Republicans, Independents who agree with these visions for our country. This is bipartisan across the country. The only place it isn't bipartisan is this chamber right here. And why is that? Mitch McConnell is not interested in the principles of our Constitution. He's not interested in the rights of Americans. Instead, he's in a cynical power strategy saying, you know what, gerrymandering is good for my party. Billionaires buying election, that's good for my party. Blocking targeted groups in America from voting, that's good for my party. Well, it is wrong on a moral basis. It is wrong on a constitutional basis. It is wrong for America. And today, 50 of us are going to stand strong in this vision of defending our Constitution. We invite our Republican friends to join us in that defense. And I hope we'll come out here later to say we have a big surprise for you. Wouldn't that be great? But if Mitch McConnell's cynical exploitation of power stays in place, and we will go from round 1 to round 2 to round 3 to round 4 of this battle until we win in defense of the Constitution.
Senator Warnock.
We debate a lot of issues in this building. We make a mistake if we think that this is just another issue. Voting rights are preservative of all other rights. When we're talking about voting rights, we're talking about that which is foundational, that which is formative. All of the other issues we debate happen within the framework of certain democratic assumptions, and those assumptions are being undermined right now. And so I'm very proud of our caucus. I'm glad that we have everybody on the same bill. And today is the beginning of a continuing fight in pursuit of that grand American idea. One person, one vote. I think that all of us who have been given this sacred trust of serving in the Senate, of serving in public office, always have in front of us a fundamental question. Now that we're in this office, whatever the office is, have we now been given power in service to public service? Or will we use the pursuit of public service in service to power? And what we're witnessing in state legislatures all across this country, unfortunately, is the naked, unabashed, unembarrassed use of power at all costs. Race is part of the equation. Students are being marginalized. Many instances, elderly folks. But this is an American problem. It might be taking place in Georgia and in Arizona and other states, but this is a fundamental American issue, and it shouldn't be partisan. We're in a fight for the soul of our democracy, and we are determined to stay in that fight until we protect the voices of the people in their own house. Now, I know that many say, how in the world are you going to do this? Well, I happen to be the pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church, where Martin Luther King Jr. preached and where John Lewis worshiped. And as I was preparing to preside over John Lewis's service last summer, I asked myself, what was he thinking when he was crossing that Edmund Pettus Bridge? Surely he wasn't thinking that one day he'd get a Presidential Medal of Freedom. He didn't care about that. He didn't have much reason to believe that he would win and that we would pass voting rights as quickly as we did. John Lewis stood up for what's right because, as Martin Luther King Jr. said, the time is always right to do what's right. And so we call on our colleagues on the other side of the aisle, you still have an opportunity to stand on the right side of history. You still can do the right thing. And know that this is not the difference between left and right, this is the difference between right and wrong.
And before I take questions, I just want to underscore one thing that Reverend Warnock said. This is not simply a partisan battle. It is true that one party has done this, but this goes much deeper. This goes into what America is all about. No matter who did this, we would stand here to be fighting it, because the right to vote is sacred. So those who tend to say, oh, it's just another fight between Democrats and Republicans are missing the point. This is a battle for the soul of America. This is a battle to continue the progress that has been inexorable, even with setbacks here and there. And we will keep fighting and keep fighting until we succeed. Questions? Go ahead.
Senator Merkley just described this as round one of the fight. So if your vote tonight is round one and you lose round one, what's round two?
Okay, look, we will have the vote, and then we will discuss our future. I'm not going to put the cart before the horse. Right now, the vote is, will Republicans move to proceed, or are they unanimously against it? Once that vote happens, we will discuss the future. Not today, not now. Yes, Manu.
You've long said that nothing's off the table when it comes to the filibuster, but now that we've heard clearly from Senator Sinema, Senator Manchin, and others, can you just say the Senate Democrats will not touch the 60-vote threshold in this Congress?
No, as I said, we are not going to put the cart before the horse. We are going to have this vote, and then we will discuss the future. Yes.
What do you think are the next best steps?
I am not going to discuss those now until we have this vote, and then we will discuss the future. Go ahead. Yes, next.
Thank you. You talk about this compromise with Senator Manchin. You don't think that you're going to get to 60 votes. So what is the weight of this compromise if this doesn't get you any further?
Senator Manchin, as Senator Klobuchar outlined, worked with me, my staff, she and her staff, Jeff and his staff, Raphael and his staff, and he's come up with a good proposal. It's not everything that everyone would want, but it has some new things in it, etc. And Senator Manchin thought it would be important to put that proposal forward as his solution. And we accept that. And as I said, if the Republicans allow us to move forward, we will have that as the first vote as an amendment, a substitute amendment. Yes. Yes.
Democrats agreed with the four of you that failure is not an option, and what do you make of the fact that two of them said that it was
Again, I am not. We're going to have the vote, and then we discuss the future. Last question. Yes. Yes. Now, remember, let me just clarify because it's a little, I want to just make it clear. First, there is the bipartisan bill that 10 Democrats and 11 Republicans are negotiating. Then there is the budget resolution, which the Budget Committee is working on. When you do reconciliation, that comes in two parts. The first part is the budget resolution, which says what the overall numbers are and allocates the money to each committee based on big programs. I'm just making this up. But let's say we want $100 billion for home health care, and that goes to the, I guess it's the Finance Committee? Well, let's just assume it does. It may go to the Health Committee, but for home health care, it's the Finance Committee. That's put in there, but it's not locked in stone. And then, once the budget resolution is adopted, and there'll be a vote-a-rama, there are always two, then the committees go to work and work out all the details. Well, what kind of home health care is it? How much are people paid? Who gets it? Who doesn't? That takes a while. That takes 3-4 weeks, particularly on a bill that's going to be this large. And that second vote may be after July, but the first vote has to be in July. I'd like to get this done as soon as possible. Thank you, everybody.